What is this circuit board from a desk mic for?
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're looking at this little circuit board here. This was removed from a desk microphone, mainly for CB use. I would not use that on amateur radio. The audio quality is atrocious at the best of times. Or at least I think it is. It sounds a bit muffled. I have used it in the past. So this board was in there. It was connected to a switch on the top of the microphone. I can actually show you the microphone. Via one wire that went into this PTT line here. I'll just bring in the microphone actually. Then you guys can see which microphone it is. It is, for what it's worth, let's see, let's just tilt that out of the way. There we go. So it's a Synchron MB plus 5RB. I don't think I've seen these on sale for a while. I bought this one Thunderpole years ago. Bring it back in. It's got a switch there for Roger Bleep. It's in bits because I'm refurbishing it. And this was connected to that switch, which makes me think that this has something to do with the Roger Bleep. The IC is a Motorola MC14093BCP. That's a Schmidt trigger, which I'm not quite sure how that's achieving a Roger Bleep. But the beep is just a single tone before it cuts the transmission anyway, so long as this is switched on. So it's got two capacitors here, two electrolytics, and it's got this one here as well. One of these will be for timing. I don't know which one it is, not without experimentally changing capacitors, which I'm not going to do. So this one down here, I have to be careful with that, because it's laid flat, is 4.7 microfarad at 50 volts. It looks okay. It doesn't look as though it's showing any signs of failure. I've got this one around here, which is in a bit of an awkward place, but I can read the value is 1 microfarad, 50 volts. I've got this 12 volt relay. Got a BC546 transistor. There's a diode tucked over there. I wonder if that's across the coils, the relay, or where that is. It looks like it's across the relay coil, possibly to protect the transistor from back EMF, which obviously would kill it. And this is the back of the circuit board here. So if I put that way, now I've fiddled around with this trimmer, and that adjusts the volume of the bleep. It's a single tone, it just beeps and then it switches off. That doesn't do anything other than adjusts the volume. I have tested this with my Uniden UniAce 100 in PA mode. I had to plug in my normal extension speaker for that because my test speaker was misbehaving. It looks like it's something that was homemade or something, but I highly doubt that if this was found in that mass-produced microphone. And if the date on that chip is to be believed, if that is the date code 9347, which is week 47 of 1993, yeah, that's a pretty old chip. And getting a replacement would be quite difficult unless you can find some new old stock, because from the information I've found so far, I believe that that chip is obsolete. Unless it's still being produced, and I've not seen any information to suggest that, so as far as I'm aware, that is obsolete. So it's basically just a Roger Bleep add-on board. That's all it is. And you can still buy Roger Bleep add-on boards. In fact, I'm just going to grab my phone behind the camera here. I did have one up on the screen. See if I can find it. There we go. It is manufactured, well, it's badged up as PNI. And it fits inside a radio. And the pictures of it show it actually being fitted inside various P&I radios, or radios based on that chassis. So that would apply to any of those radios. And it also suggests that you program it using a micro USB. And that is called the P&I ECH01, which is basically a modern day version of that, except it can have different beeps on it rather than just the one, which makes a bit of sense. And it looks like that could probably be fitted into some of the Thunderpole radios as well, judging by the pictures on the website I was looking at that on. I was looking at that one on Waters and Stanton, but I've seen it other places as well. So this is what the underside of this board looks like, to some extent. I mean, there's some pads here with no solder on them because I've had to take the solder off in order to be able to put the wire, take the wire out for the PCT and such like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up on the screen now a picture of this flipped over with a picture of that next to it, so that the pinout does sort of tally up. And that way we have an idea of actually what it's doing. Now the microphone runs off a PB3 battery, and that relay is rated 12 volts. Which makes me think that could be retrofitted to anything that can supply it with that voltage, give or take. It depends on that Schmidt trigger. Just need to have a look at the data sheet for that. Yeah, I found it. It says it'll go up to 18 volts, so you'd probably retrofit that to a modern CB microphone that can supply power to it, and there you go. You got yourself this Roger Bleep inside a microphone. It depends how much room's inside the microphone itself, and if the microphone's getting power from the radio. If it's not, then you'd have to run it off a battery. But that's what this is. It's add-on Roger Bleep board. You can still buy Roger Bleep boards, and there are still circuits out there that you can probably build if you can get the components. Not sure about this unless you can find new old stock. But I think it would be better to do it with a PIC microcontroller or some other kind of microcontroller, then you've got a bit more flexibility of what the beeps might sound like. I'm not the biggest advocate of Roger Bleeps. Obviously, on amateur, we don't use them at all. On CB, they're often used on SSB because it makes sense, because then you know when the other person's let go of the PTT button, because that's what the Roger Bleep's for. On FM, personally, if close-up stations, I don't see the point in them having them on, but it helps if you can't hardly hear that station, a case that I have noticed in the past where when I did have the car and I've been driving along and listening to people that are far away, I've been able to hear their Roger Bleep more than their voice, which is very, very interesting indeed. PMR 446, same sort of principle would apply. Roger Bleeps are used on PMR 446. They are actually built into the radios. It's built into a lot of handhelds, even the ones that you're not supposed to use on PMR 446, as it turns out. And that also helps again with if you're quite some distance away, because you'll hear the bleep before if you can't hear the person speaking. So they do have their uses, although I'm not the biggest fan of them. So it's an interesting way of doing a Roger Bleep. I'll pop the pictures at the end for the reverse engineering. It'd be better if I do that than put them up on the screen, because otherwise you're not going to see anything. And let you have a reverse engineer of that yourself, because I don't actually have the time to do that, because I do have a lot on, including putting this video out. So if you like my content, you could subscribe. You can also give me a thumbs up, but if you don't like it, you're more than welcome to press the other button as well. It works just as well. And if you want to watch another one of mine, one pop up on the screen now that the algorithm thinks you probably might like. And you could also chip in a bit towards the channel if you want to become a channel member. It does give early access videos. This one isn't early access. This one's actually gone straight out because I'm a little bit behind schedule. You could buy me a coffee if you want. Or you could put a bit of money towards the channel in the super thanks button. There's a thanks button, just click on that. But you don't have to do any of that if you don't want to. I mean, that's all entirely up to you. This channel is free of charge for anyone to watch. And will always remain that way. So I'll catch you in the next one, and 7-3 for now.
Okay, so some bonus extra footage, for those of you who like bonus extra footage. Although this one might be useful. I've took pictures of the circuit board, and I've kind of done a Big Clive here by flipping one side of the board over so that, as you can see, all the components line up with all of the tracks and pads underneath. So that should give you an idea of how to reverse engineer this thing. So it should be that all the components are in fact visible on the board. When I'm looking at the pictures recording this, because I do actually have the pictures up on my screen whilst recording this, it does look like they are visible. You'll obviously see there's a couple of them pads that are lacking in solder, but as I explained earlier in the video, that's because I had to remove some solder when I was trying to get some of the wires off to get it out of the microphone. Yep, so that will probably give you an idea of how to reverse engineer that, and then maybe someone with a bit more time can figure out how they've managed to use a Schmidt trigger to do a Roger bleep, because it's still kind of eluding me how they've managed to do that. Because even looking at a data sheet for one of those, it's not really giving me much. Whether it's a sine wave or a square wave, I'm not actually sure how it's doing it. I'd have to put scopes on it and everything, and that's just not something I have time to do, unfortunately. You know. Anyway, this is definitely the end of the video now. You can pause this and have a look and reverse engineer this to your heart's content. 7-3 for now.